There's a commonly spread misconception that atheists have to be nihilists and that they can't have any meaning in their lives at all. It's true that atheists can't have objective meaning in their lives because they don't believe in an objective sense of the world. But atheists can still have subjective meaning in their lives, which for many is enough to live with. Many atheists actually prefer the subjective meaning over an objective meaning, which they feel that restricts their lives. First, in order to discuss why all atheists are not nihilists, we have to discuss what an atheist is by definition. By definition, an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God or an objective existence of God. This logically leads to a nihilist viewpoint of the universe and the meaning of life, that there is no meaning. But that doesn't mean that the atheists can't create their own subjective meaning, which can be just as real to them as an objective meaning. But before we get into how atheists can create meaning in their lives, we have to discuss why religion isn't actually objective and it just seems objective. So over human history, religion has been used to avoid the problem of nihilism, or it's been kind of a cure to it. The belief that there's an objective existence out there, that God exists and that He will give you your meaning and you can just live your life according to that, has provided a way for people to avoid the problem of nihilism. But just because this idea has been useful doesn't mean it's true. We don't have any sufficient reason to believe that these religions are objectively true, or even that these gods exist. Now, the fact of whether God exists or not can be another discussion for another video, but there's no sufficient reason that we should believe that these religions are true. One of the ways in which we can discredit these religions is the amount of disagreement among its people. There's such a large amount of inconsistent revelation among people that it just seems like this is subjective to many people. Religions all throughout the world say that their God gives them a different purpose compared to another God on another place of the globe. Now, why would this be if there was one true God and He was giving everyone the true revelation of what their purpose for their life is? Another reason why we can see that these religions are subjective is the factors which make people believe in these religions. As we know, one of the biggest factors to which religion you're going to adhere to is your geographical location in which you're born in. Studies have actually been done where they show that monotheistic religions are more common within desert environments, and polytheistic religions are more common within forest environments. And even nowadays, if you're born more in the desert areas, you're going to believe in either Christianity or Islam or some kind of monotheistic religion. Now, if there was one true objective meaning that was coming from these gods, why would it be that the place that you are totally out of control, that is totally random, would determine your meaning in life? The point I'm trying to raise here is that religion is ultimately subjective. There is no objective way to prove that these religions are true or that the meaning that provided by them is true. It really just feels better to just say this is objective, so I'm going to follow it, and it just kind of seals up the problem of nihilism. Nihilism as a whole has been an issue for humanity for a long time, ever since we've got logical critical thinking and consciousness. There were a lot of attempts to try to deal with this problem, and religion ended up being one of the most helpful and influential ideas. People around the world created their own religion to give them meaning in their lives, which was subjective but ended up feeling like it's objective at some point when it got so widespread that everyone believed in it. Soon people tried to reconcile the real world with their subjective viewpoints, which seemed to make the viewpoint more objective, but it was still subjective, but it was just more matching with the real world. But as time went on, many people realized that these religions are ultimately subjective and that there's actually no way to prove that these gods exist. So people started going back to their subjective meaning. That's when existentialism was born, the philosophy of making your own meaning. One of the famous quotes from Friedrich Nietzsche is in his book titled Thus Spoke Zarathustra, and his quote says, "God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderer of all murderers?" Nietzsche here is talking about how we have actually lost objective meaning, which we created for ourselves. And now what are we going to do with our lives when we have no meaning? This was the real start of realizing that these religions aren't actually giving us objective meaning. So as a response to this, many philosophers started to delve into existentialist philosophy, which is the philosophy of making your own meaning for your life. There was a clear inverse relationship between religious belief and existentialist philosophy. As religious belief went down and belief in the objective world, existentialist philosophy began to increase and people started making meaning for their own lives. Kierkegaard is often referred to as the father of existential philosophy because of his first ideas on the fundamentals of existentialist philosophy. One of these key principles was existence precedes essence, which is basically that your existence determines what your meaning is in your life. So as you go through life, you get to decide what your meaning is throughout life, and that meaning isn't given to you by an outside source. Now, existentialism is just one of the ways that atheists can find meaning in their lives or create their own meaning within their lives to help them get through life. But there is a second way that atheists can create meaning within their lives, and that is absurdism. Within his book, The Myth of Sisyphus, Albert Camus talks about the one philosophical problem that actually matters, and that is the problem of suicide. If the universe has no objective meaning, then why shouldn't we all just commit suicide? Now, this kind of thinking is very common within nihilists. They claim that since the universe has no objective meaning, we can just end our lives early and just get it over with. But Albert Camus argues differently against this. He thinks that committing suicide is succumbing to the despair of the universe, is succumbing to the despair of meaninglessness, and that is a cowardly way to live your life, or to not live it. Albert Camus advocates for rebelling against meaninglessness and living your life even with no meaning being there. He sees suicide as an admission of defeat, and he argues that as conscious beings, we have so much freedom in the universe that is meaningless, and that we should take the opportunity to enjoy this freedom while we have it. Ultimately, living in a meaningless universe also means unlimited freedom, which we get to decide what the meaning for our lives is. And instead of searching for meaning, Albert Camus argues that we should just go headfirst into the despair of meaninglessness and come out victorious while rebelling against that despair. So ultimately, these are some of the ways that atheists can actually create meaning within their lives and not be nihilists. Being an atheist doesn't have to guarantee the fact that you are a nihilist. You can still have meaning within your lives in an objective sense. And if anyone from any religion tries to claim that you do not have objective meaning, then I believe that the religious person also doesn't have objective meaning. They just subjectively chose to believe in that meaning that they found, where depending on where they were born and what was first exposed to them. But yeah, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I actually wrote an article on this topic, which you can check out on medium.com, which I will have linked in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to comment. Let's have some discussions about this in the comments below. And please leave a like, subscribe if you find this content useful, and thank you for watching.